Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to the PHLY Flyers postgame show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name's Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me, it's Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor, and Broad Street Hockey's own Kelly Hinkle.
What's up, fam?
Flyers, I guess... While it came down to a net empty situation, it wasn't a one-goal game. Does this fall under the normal, not dramatic category? Even though there was, like, a chance at the end, I guess.
It wasn't dramatic.
I would say it was a normal,
normal
loss.
Just kind of a normal game.
This was a normal loss because on number one, it wasn't super close. Minnesota led through most of the game. But number two, it also felt like Minnesota deserved to win this game.
Yeah.
This wasn't a game where you're looking back and you're thinking to yourself, man, the Flyers should have won that one. This is a game where the Flyers played against the team with the second best points percentage in hockey and looked like they were playing against a team with the second best points percentage in hockey. It's not that the Flyers are bad. Minnesota's really good, and they played like a really good team, and they showed that really good teams are still better than the Flyers.
This is a way she goes game.
Yeah.
It was just like one of those games. All right, this team's better.
Yeah.
The Flyers are having hilarious Flyers-like luck. Just like you have 75 square feet of open net and you hit 2 inches of Michkov sticks. It was just one of those games. It happens.
Oh, yeah. There's a world where they win this game.
Yeah,
this
they
game
didn't really
goes
play
to overtime.
poorly.
Yeah, I don't think they played awful.
Mm-mm.
If Konechny beats Fleury on that ridiculous save, if Konechny doesn't hit the 2 inches of Michkov stick, then maybe the Flyers do win this or take it to overtime, or it's an entirely different game. But by the same token, even if those two plays go differently, Minnesota still outplayed the Flyers.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's...
No question there.
The plays could have gone differently. It could have been a different game. Like you said, I don't think the Flyers were bad today. But those sorts of, they had a chance, like those are really amplified. Like it says here, they ended up with 22 shots. Sure, I guess. They had 18 with less than 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Like when you get fewer than 20 shots, you're probably not going to have very many opportunities. And I think that just shows the kind of defense that Minnesota plays. That's why they give up, 2.55 goals a game, tied for second fewest in the league.
Per National Stat Trick, the Flyers had, and this is all situations, not just 5-on-5. The Flyers had
in there
3 high danger chances the entire game.
Oh.
Now, number one, that speaks to how good of a defensive team Minnesota is. They have to be. They're not, they have Kaprizov, but as they mentioned on the broadcast, and it's a very good point, they have nearly $15 million worth of dead cap space. This is not a team that can stack their lineup with star after star after star. They just don't have the ability under the cap system. So what do they have to do? They have to play a very tight defensive game, which they very much do. So that's number one. Number two, though, the Flyers could have played a more effective offensive game as well. It's not just like Minnesota is not a world beater. They're a very good team this year. I don't think anybody would consider them to be one of the Cup favorites, despite the fact they've had a really good start to the year. The Flyers could have created more against this team. They just didn't.
They just didn't.
No, and that brings me to where we are with the standings with this loss. The Flyers are still a game over Hockey 500. They're 14-13-4, 32 points. By total points, keeps them ahead of the Rangers, who got their asses kicked today. Rangers have 31 points in 29 games. Flyers have 32 and 31. But, sorting by total points, Flyers still have that second wild card spot. It's going to be like this, I think. I mean, the Rangers have a real opportunity to just absolutely go in the tank and like finish below the Islanders or something, below the Senators. It very much looks like it's going that way.
It was real bad for them.
And yesterday we talked like this current iteration of the team, because it's hard to like, oh yeah, man, if you look at the season as a whole, like October through now, that's a playoff team. It's like, no, like the current iteration, the team that we've been seeing for the last couple of weeks, looks like a playoff team, right?
Looks playoff caliber.
Yes, it looks like they should be
in the mix.
In this mix, especially when you look at the rest of the East and just go like, other than the teams in playoff position, who is better than them? Probably no one. But the Flyers, 7 regulation wins. That's the fewest in the East, tied for last in the league with San Jose, Chicago, and Nashville. So like the two the last two teams to pick number 1 overall, and Nashville, who's like, we don't know what's wrong, but we're the worst team in the league for some reason. That's who the Flyers are tied with in regulation wins. I don't think one game against, again, the team that leads the West in points percentage, like on the road afternoon, like, oh yes, this shows that the Flyers are no good. But when you just kind of look at it as a whole, like 7 regulation wins is very few. In fact, it's the fewest.
Yeah, tied for
like, what is it? Does that kind of alter your perception of what they are? Or is today just, I'm looking for something today because they lost?
Well,
yeah,
you are.
Yes.
Yeah, that is accurate.
Yeah, I never disagree with you, but I got to say, like, winning in overtime is still winning. And in some ways, it's like even more impressive in that a lot of them, they had to fight back from being down, take it to overtime, and then find a way to win it. Like, that's still a win.
I'm not quite going as far as you, Kelly, because I do think that it is a red flag. It is absolutely a red flag that they haven't won many games in regulation. I put it actually when I did my my article this past week on the battles between Brightside and Gloomsman. I put that in there as one of the reasons for being pessimistic about the quality of this team is that they have not won a lot of games in regulation. And generally speaking, teams that don't win a lot of games in regulation are usually real bad. The pace that they were on, this was before Thursday's game. They obviously won Thursday's game in regulation, so their pace was up. But the pace they were on before Thursday's game, if they would have stayed on that pace, which I believe was pacing for 17 regulation wins over the course of the year, no team has finished with 17 or fewer regulation wins over a full 82-game season and had more than 79 standings points. And that was the absolute best. Now, 79 standings points in no way, shape, or form is going to be enough to get this team to the playoffs.
But is that with overtime losses, though, or with overtime wins?
No, it's regulation wins.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, if you take a team that only has 17 regulation wins but has 10 overtime wins, and then a team that has 17 regulation wins and has 10 overtime losses, like, those are two wildly different teams.
But the underlying point is that if you're not winning in regulation, you're probably not going to keep winning in overtime.
I mean, it would be better if they would win in regulation, but
it's better. It's obviously better for, the sanity of people. But I think the underlying point is like good teams win in regulation. If you're not winning in regulation, if you always are requiring overtime, you're probably not a very good team. So I think that is a reasonable point. That said, there's the element with the Flyers where it's just like they're a chaotic team.
Yes.
This is just what they do.
Yes.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it on full display today. You talk about some of those misses. Yeah. There's just a comedy of somehow Travis Konechny fires a shot in a 2-on-1 that just finds Marc-Andre Fleury's glove. There's the wide open net that he somehow fires far side, and it finds, like you said, the 2 inches of Michkov's stick.
Yeah.
There was a play down low after the Sanheim goal where they get it again, and there's like 3 opportunities for Sanheim or Michkov to put the puck in the net. Neither of them can find it on any of the 3 opportunities. There was just kind of that comedy of, oh man, we finally got an opportunity and unable to take advantage. But it comes back to me today with, you had 18 shots. Like, of course, you only had 3 opportunities. You had 18 shots. Overall, like, maybe it limits what I think this team can do as a ceiling. Like, what did we all think of the Islanders going in to the playoffs last year? Like, oh, they're here based on loser points. Right. So they're not very good.
Right. Well, honestly, like, is that not where we are with the Flyers? Like, I'm not sitting here thinking that the Flyers are like a contender in any way. I think they might sneak into the playoffs and probably lose in the first round. But that's still fun.
Yeah, if they get in, I want to watch those 6 games that I hope they play.
Yeah,
but like, I don't expect it to be more than 5 or 6 games.
I think that's probably the best way to talk about this game, and this sort of brings in your point about the regulation wins. This is a little bit of a reality check game because things have been fun. Like, they lost some games. Obviously they won the last 2. They had the big win against Detroit. They had the win against Columbus. Before that, they lost 3 straight. But in those 3 games, they played well in all 3. Well, the Utah game was just miserable overall. But Florida, that's one of the best teams in hockey. And you could watch that game and say, man, if they didn't just cough up a lead late and take some dumb penalties, that they could have beaten a real good team. Boston's a team, they're not what they used to be, but they still have that cachet of being the Bruins. You have the same feeling. And you're coming out, they kind of did the same thing to Vegas, where it's like, they lost that game, but they controlled play a lot of that game against a real good team. And you could start convincing yourself, maybe this team is better than we think. This is a little bit of a reality check game in that they played against a really good team, and that really good team was significantly better than the Flyers, who didn't even play horrible.
Yeah, like
they just got outplayed by a better team.
Yeah.
And it was just a reality check to remind you, the Flyers aren't there yet.
They didn't get their asses kicked. But in that, like, if this is 5-0, you're like, oh, they just didn't have it today, you know? But it wasn't that. It was just, they're in it, but they can't win this game.
Yeah.
Like, they're right there. They're going toe-to-toe with this team, but they're not doing anything to make me believe they can actually win.
No, I mean, the two guys that scored initially for Minnesota would be the best two players on Flyers team. So, like, we don't have those two guys. So,
No, and that
once we get a couple more really good players, things will be a little bit different.
The big difference, like Charlie tweeted out for a lot of this game was, well, they have one superstar. He made a very high difficulty play to score the opening goal, banked it off of Ersson. Like, Ersson actually read the play and he's there, and the puck just finds his helmet and then finds the net.
It was an unbelievably well-placed shot.
Incredible to be able to do that, like, in one motion accurately. Wild, pun intended. And then, of course, Travis Konechny, our closest thing to that player.
Right. Could not do it.
Couple of like, how?
Yeah.
Please,
And
that's like the difference for 35 minutes of this game.
Yeah, one of the two, the other really good player on the team is a significant contributor to why it didn't go in the
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Like, they teamed up. They've teamed up for, 3 overtime winners, and then they just teamed up for, like, the gaff of the year.
Yeah.
It happens.
Whereas Minnesota's second best player scores on a breakaway.
Yes, exactly. And that's just kind of the way. I think reality check is a good way to describe today's game. And before we go any further, I got to tell you about our friends at Rite Aid. You got to help protect yourself this holiday season. You don't want to miss out on all the fun. And one of the best ways to do it, it's by going to Rite Aid to get your pneumonia vaccine, because the CDC has lowered the age recommendation to 50 plus. It used to be 65. They've lowered it, so now millions more people can get vaccinated, because millions of people get pneumonia every year. It's a respiratory illness, fall and winter. That's a time when germs that cause respiratory disease typically spread more in the community. So now is the time to get vaccinated and help yourself stay healthy, because some people who get pneumonia, it's mild. It's not that big a deal. You have walking pneumonia, just kind of uncomfortable. Other people experience very serious complications, and the vaccine is one of the best ways to help keep yourself and those around you healthy, and it's usually no cost with insurance. Getting vaccinated is easy. Just walk into your local Rite Aid or schedule an online appointment at riteaid.com. Unsure of what vaccines you may need? Just ask your pharmacist for a personal recommendation. Stop by your local Rite Aid today. Well, speaking of today, it's 1-800-588-2300-EMPIRE.
Today.
With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quicker professional installation, and that price match guarantee. Been telling you for months, almost a year now, Empire Today, we all know that's the best place for new flooring. That's why you all know that commercial. You know that jingle. Well, they're going to have copycats, but the copycats can't beat Empire on quality, service, or speed, so they just advertise products that they wouldn't use in their own home because of the low quality. The Empire philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. Their product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. You can see them all with the virtual floor designer. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for details. So that gets us to some of the granular stuff that we often get into on this show, leading with, who wasn't especially impressive today? No one impressed. Like, no one had a good day. Egor Zamula, however, second game back in the lineup, replacing Marc-Andre, a healthy asterisk scratch in my mind. Like, he's healthy. Probably. He's healthy-ish. Like in Moneyball. Like, he's healthy-ish.
Healthy-ish.
Yeah. Gotta believe now, with a few days especially, was it Wednesday they play next?
Yes.
We'll be seeing Marc-Andre back in the rotation?
We better be.
I'm in the same. I was literally going to say the exact same thing, Kelly. They better.
Because it would be wild if they didn't.
Yeah, well, it's just the big problem tonight was lack of ability to get up ice and produce offense. 18 shots on goal. You were saying, what'd they finish with?
22 allegedly.
But 18 shots with 2 minutes left. Marc-Andre is maybe their best transition defenseman in terms of passing the puck. Like Sanheim is their best skating transition defenseman in terms of carrying the puck out of the zone himself.
Yeah.
Andre may be the best guy at passing the puck out of the zone. And guess what? That helps you get shots on goal because it puts you on the attack more often. Look, I never really agreed with the scratching in the first place. My thing is, look, this season, while I would like to see the Flyers make the playoffs, I think, if they earn it, they should get it. I'm not going to root against them. However, this season doesn't matter as much as 2-3 years down the line. And if they think that Andre will benefit developmentally from sitting out for a game or two, fine. Hopefully that's the purpose that it serves. But if you're talking about this team in the here and now, they are better with Marc-Andre in the lineup. And this game, I don't know if they would have won this game with Marc-Andre and over Egor Zamula, but I think they would have had a better chance of winning this game if Andre's in over Zamula. Zamula has what looked like a bad read on the Matt Boldy breakaway goal, where he kind of gets pulled over to the side and doesn't recognize that they're probably going to try to stretch it. He was, other than that play, unremarkable, I would say. That was a not great play to my eyes, but other than that, I don't think he was horrific. That said, I don't think he did a lot to help them create offense, whereas Marc-Andre, on a consistent basis for the last month and a half, has done a lot for them to create offense, and he should be back in the lineup to help them create offense.
Yeah, and there's just nothing else I feel like left to learn about Egor Zamula. Like, I feel like we know now what he is. He's like this guy who is sometimes fine, but often not, and usually ends up making one glaring error per game that ends up in the back of the net. And so, like, I feel like if we're still in evaluation phase, which we very clearly are, now it's time to see way more of Marc-Andre because we don't 100% know what he is yet.
Yeah.
So let's find out. I don't need to learn anything else about Zamula. Like, I feel like I'm full up on knowledge of what he's going to bring us.
I saw a lot of, like, especially after the misplay that leads to the breakaway,
right?
Like the read, and then he's probably needs to be further over. Yeah. Then the puck hops the stick. Just a bunch of things went wrong for Zamula on that play. Like a whole lot of, well, how could Tortorella think this guy's better than Andre? He doesn't. We know he doesn't because, like, yeah, it's only a few minutes, but like Zamula, 18 and a half today about. Andre was consistently playing over 20 minutes. Yeah. Like, they were fine. Like, he had games where he was second on the team. He had one, I think, where he was like right there with Sanheim. He was using him far more often. I just think we have to separate. Well, he thinks he's better because he didn't play Zamula over Andre. He took Andre out because Andre's play was slipping from where it had been in the previous 2 weeks to the last 2 games or so. And he got rocked in that Columbus game. It would not shock me if it was like, oh, yeah, we're not going to call it a concussion. But
he was practicing. But I could see it being a little precautionary.
Yeah, like
hey, maybe the headache pops up 4 days later.
I'm not saying he's injured, but if it's something that was just like, yeah, we saw you get rocked, man, and you haven't been as good, now seems like a good time for you to do some of that learn by watching stuff that we talk about all the time. Yeah. And as long, like, 2 games is not going to kill him. If I see at the end of the year he missed these 2 games, I'll go, all right, whatever. If it continues, like, this is foolish because he's, like, part of the future.
Right.
And that's, if he's not, I want to learn that too.
Yeah.
Like, if his play continues to dip, I want to see that happen now. So we're not doing what we do with some of these guys that we've been watching for 3 years. Like, what are they still? It's like, and I want to find out now.
Right. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to see this turn into like a rotation where it's like, well, we haven't seen Zamula in 5 games, so Andre's got to sit even though he's playing well. Like, no, not at this point.
The thing that makes it especially difficult to handle when you pull Andre out of the lineup and you bring Zamula in is just the way the pairs fall. Because where they're at right now, like, obviously, York and Sanheim is your top pair. We'll talk a little bit more about Cam York in a little bit because he had a rough game. Then you have Seeler, Drysdale. Well, they're trying to develop Drysdale. They're trying to kind of ease him back in. He missed some time, and they know it's going to be a long-term project. So they don't want Jamie Drysdale to be getting second pair minutes. They want to be developing him in lesser minutes, lesser matchups. Nick Seeler is the guy they designated to be the Jamie Drysdale partner on, for multiple reasons. Number one, Seeler has been good the last couple of years. He's that steadying presence. Number two, he's a big guy who's willing to drop the gloves, and Drysdale's the kind of guy the teams take runs at sometimes. So I think that's probably part of it too. But Seeler, Drysdale is your third pair. Rasmus Ristolainen has been very good this year, so he's clearly on that second pair. If you pull Andre out of the lineup and you don't want to move Seeler up because you want to keep him with Drysdale, Zamula functionally has to be your second pair left-handed shooting defenseman. That's what he has to be, left side defenseman. He's barely been good enough this year to be a quality third pair defenseman. The reason why Andre was such a big deal, his surprise emergence, why it was such a big deal for this team, is because they didn't have any clear-cut solutions to solve the second pair problem. It was like, well, if Drysdale's not ready, I guess they're just screwed. And it seemed like they were until they called Andre up, and it was like, wait a minute, this guy's left-handed Sean Walker. Maybe they have an internal solution that can make this team a quality team for the rest of this season when I didn't think they had a solution. And you're seeing when they pull him out of the lineup, it's the exact same problem they had the first month, where it's like Drysdale ain't ready to be a second pair defenseman. Seeler's his partner. Ristolainen can be a top four guy if he's got the right partner. Andre might be that partner. I think we're all pretty clear Zamula isn't. And when Andre's out of the lineup, Zamula has to be. And it just reminds us that he's not that guy. Maybe he could be sometime down the road. You guys are skeptical. Frankly, I'm skeptical too. The Flyers have higher hopes for him. But I'm very confident he's not that guy now.
Yes.
Whereas Andre, at least in a small sample size, has shown that he can be.
He at least has traits that they need in that role. Like, yes, Egor Zamula did a nice job for a little bit on the power play last year. Also, like, where they were when he took over, they couldn't have gotten worse. Like, statistically impossible, just about. Other than that, like, I can't, like, what is the thing that he does that keeps, it's like, oh, he's just kind of okay at several different things where it's like, Andre, you can point to. Yeah, like you just said, he might be the best player on this team with the breakout pass. Yeah. Might be the best guy at it already with, 20 games played in his career in the NHL. So, like, that's a thing you can point to and go, well, we need that. That's something that puts him in the lineup. It's a skill set. It's a reason to have him out there.
It's just when he's not in the lineup, it makes that second pair weakness so glaring.
Yes.
Because he's the only guy who can maybe fill it. And maybe he won't keep it up, but he's the only guy who has a chance to.
Yes.
Something I just noticed, because you're talking about the Seeler-Drysdale pair. Drysdale plays like 22 minutes tonight. Seeler plays 11.
Interesting.
Seeler doesn't play about the last 8 minutes of the third.
Well, they're chasing the game.
I was just thinking about how it unfolded.
Yeah.
They pulled the goalie with like 4.5 minutes left.
Right.
Clearly generating offense a problem. Again, they had 18 shots and only 5 forwards had a shot on goal with 2 minutes left. Do you think this is probably just like, well, we need offense and you're the guy who doesn't do that?
Probably.
Yeah, they were trailing for most of this game. Look, Seeler hasn't been great this year, but he is
definitely not what he was last year.
He is the defense guy.
Yeah.
They know, he might have a good offensive play here and there. He had that one really nice pinch that led to the goal a few games ago, but he's the defense guy. And when you're down 2 goals, you're not going to play the defense guy.
What did we think of Drysdale tonight? Because he's been pretty impressive since he came back from injury. I feel like today he was a bit quieter.
He was quieter. I didn't think he was bad.
No, he wasn't bad.
He was on the ice for that goal, the Boldy goal, but I put that more on Zamula than Drysdale. Maybe Drysdale could have recognized it. They broke it down, during intermission, Morganti and them, and Al basically said, look, I guess you could pin it on either one, but he personally thinks it's more on Zamula. I agree. It looked more on Zamula. Yeah. But I guess Drysdale could have recognized it and done quicker, but to me, that's more on Zamula. I thought Drysdale was okay. That said, they had 18 shots on goal until 2 minutes left in the game. And Drysdale, Seeler is the defenseman. Drysdale is the offense defenseman. And he didn't do a ton to help the offense.
Yeah.
No. I feel like assessing basically anyone today is like, I don't know, they're all right.
Yeah, they're all right.
Like that's what the team did today.
I thought Noah Cates was good.
He won.
He was consistently noticeable.
Won a bunch of battles. Got a lot of second chance plays, like won some races. That was good to see. Owen Tippett looked hot to start and didn't really for the second half of the game. I don't think I noticed him nearly as much as I did early.
Yeah.
I want to get to this Cam York stuff because I just find it interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate.
You brought it up, and we got a tweet, a mention from Anthony Coppola just has York not been good since returning from injury?
Well,
And
Twitter thinks he's been terrible.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of people complaining. I don't think he's been awful.
I just think he hasn't been noticeable.
His underlying numbers have still been good. Now, tonight, I suspect they're terrible because it was just a bad game all around by the eye test and the numbers for him. By the numbers, he's been fine since he's come back. I don't think he's done as much as he did prior to the injury. He hasn't been as noticeable. He's not getting the points.
Yeah.
But I did think before today that the hate on him was a little much. Today, though, it was completely justified. He had a really bad game
good today.
And I do think it's, because that's how it always has been for me with Sanheim and now with York. If you're going to be this type of defenseman, I need you to score. Like, I just need you to score some. Sanheim gets one today. It's the only goal. But especially second half of last season after Sanheim kind of started to trail off, we saw York become more of the catalyst for that line, for that pair. And then prior to the injury, I thought he was the aggressive one of the two. And we're like, Sanheim's kind of the passenger right now. He's kind of the other guy on this pair. And then when York goes down, that's when all the Sanheim hype begins. And now since York has been back, it's just kind of back to him. Yeah, he's out there, but I can't say he's doing anything noticeable. Either way, like today he made some bad plays, but like overall, it's just like, I don't know. He had a couple good plays against the Rush, I thought, last game, like made some stops, but overall, yeah, he's out there. That's basically it since he's come back.
How many games has he been back now?
I can check. It's been a decent amount.
It's been a fair number, right?
It's been a few weeks.
So like we're past the like easing back into action stage
I would say
of
so.
things.
Well, they didn't really ease him back into action. I mean, he's been consistently getting over 20 minutes since he's come back.
No, yeah, but I mean, like, you know, you come back first couple
10 games,
shaking off the rust, whatever. Like, if we were on game like 3 or 4 of him coming back from injury, I could maybe forgive this performance, but. No, you've been long. You've been back long
this
enough,
was just a bad game.
It was a bad
Today
game.
was game 11. He's been getting 22 minutes a night.
Yeah,
like that's
they haven't been easing it back in. Like for me, and I made this comment to somebody on Blue Sky who was complaining about Cam York. I was like, look, Cam York's having a bad game. I am more than willing, and I called him out on both platforms. He had a bad game. He was really bad on that third goal, the Rossi goal. That was just a bad sequence in every way for Cam York. But like a guy's allowed to have a bad game before like. He can have a bad game and not have to inspire people saying trade him.
No, that's crazy. It's one game.
People are looking for someone to trade. And honestly, I can't blame them.
And we've talked about it on this show that like Cam York is one of the pieces that they have that makes sense if you're going to make like a big blockbuster hockey trade.
Yeah, and then in 2 years, that'll be the same thing people are saying about Marc-Andre when the new car sheen goes off.
I know. I'm not saying that they should or that it will be good or whatever, but I'm saying that, like, he seems like a guy good enough to give up for somebody else's good enough player.
Yeah.
And people are, like you said, itching for something to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be anybody do an extension. There's always going to be the, like, well, are we really going to sign this guy if he has a bad game?
Can't believe we're signing someone.
And as we say, like, you can't just trade, Hagen a third to get whatever the hell you want. You're going to have to trade someone good. And you look at it like, ultimately, is Sanheim going to stay on the right? I don't know. Well, if Andre is a top 4 left-handed defenseman and Sanheim moves back over to the left, there's your top 4 on the left.
Right.
Like, okay, so Cam York, maybe he's the expendable one. And while he may end up being a really good player, we need good players elsewhere, too. And if we have enough of the defense, it just kind of makes sense. So I think you put, like, the logical and illogical things together. It's just, well, we need to trade someone. It's got to be him.
Got to trade York because at this current moment, he's the guy that strikes me as expendable because I'm the most frustrated with him at this moment.
Well, we all like Sanheim now. He made Team Canada. Right. And Marc-Andre hasn't been around long enough to piss us off.
Exactly.
So it's by default Cam York. Sorry, Cameron.
You are the winner.
All right. Couple other pregame storylines that I thought were going to be important. Turned out not to be. Well, Michkov did lead, or at least co-led the team in shots. He had 4. Yeah.
He was doing stuff.
He had 4, as did offensive dynamo Rasmus Ristolainen.
Heyo.
8 of the team's 22 shots came from those two guys.
Well, half of them are
one of them makes
who should
sense.
be shooting the puck. Yeah.
It's in their first meeting, Michkov, a goal and an assist, Kaprizov, 2 assists. I was thinking we could see a similar showdown today. Well, None of those bets paid
Was
off.
not.
Hopefully, no one was tailing me again. As I've told you many times, don't. It's
Hey,
foolish.
Kirill Kaprizov did his job getting to that combined 4 points
That's
thing
true.
of the bet. Who was that?
That was Neil.
That was Neil.
It was Neil.
Nostradamus.
So
projected that.
he was
Okay.
there.
So he nailed Kaprizov.
Kaprizov,
Michkov didn't come through on his end.
2 goals for Kaprizov today. So that's he's making his Hart Trophy case as the season goes. They said he has a lot of empty net goals, and damn, that's a pretty cool stat for like a skilled Russian winger to be trusted at the end of those. Like,
It's fair.
it's if you're out there, it means the coach trusts you.
Yeah.
And
That's a good
to be in that situation, like you earned those goals. But he is something, man. That first goal, I can't.
It was just.
You tip
I
your
was
cap.
just like, yo, that's sick.
Yeah,
that's
that's the
you
thing.
tip your cap.
We're down 1-0, and in my mind, we're not even losing.
It's one of those ones
This
where you're
dude
like-
just made a dope play.
Yeah.
Like it was the like back off the backboards purposefully, missed the
Perfectly.
net, and for him to read it, play it smoothly, and get it accurately directly off the side of the helmet into the net was.
It was.
What are you gonna do? That's why he's a superstar.
Yeah.
Like
was
that's why I said he's gonna get
ridiculous.
14 million in pregame. Like it
Michkov's
makes
going to
sense.
score a lot of goals like that.
Yes.
Where on not that specifically, but where fans of the other team are just going to be.
What are you gonna do?
Gonna say like, what are you going to
Yeah,
do?
what are you gonna do?
He's real good.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
happens.
Was disappointed. I think this is 2 games in a row without a point for Mish, and that's like the
we don't
longest.
like when that happens.
That's the longest since the scratch. I think. I
Yeah.
think he hadn't gone 2 straight games without a point since then. So a few days off now. Home against they're in Detroit. In Detroit on
Detroit.
Wednesday
In
because
Detroit.
Charlie's going to be here
Yes.
for the watch along,
Watch along.
which you should join us for on Wednesday. It's going to be an awesome show.
Gang's all
Pre-game, watch along, post-game, the 3 of us in studio. Going to be a great time. So make sure you tune in for that. And that gets me to my other pregame storyline that turned out not to matter. In fact, Bobby Brink, he didn't really do much today. His first game in the arena he grew up going to as a kid. Obviously, that high school Minnesota tournament that they do is like the most insane thing in U.S. hockey. He played there a bunch. Not so much today. Had that on that awesome power play sequence that they had where it was like, this is the best they've moved the puck maybe in
that
3 years.
power play looked so good.
It eventually ends up with Brink fumbling it a little and then trying a blind backhand pass, and that's a turnover, and that's kind of the end of the threat. What are we thinking about Bobby? I like him a lot and want him to be something.
Yeah.
And he scores at a decent enough clip. Does he do enough else for you to be in the lineup, though, like on a consistent basis? I like him a lot. I just don't really know what his fit is.
Well, right now, yeah. I think he absolutely, at the moment, I mean, maybe this wasn't his best game.
Yeah.
But that line of Forrester, Cates, and Brink has been
It's been good.
It's been
Yeah.
very effective. Again, and I always am this person, like, let's not put too much stock in just one game. So, yeah, coming out of this game, you could say, yeah, Brink didn't look effective at all. Trade him. He's not that good. He's been good before, like, leading up to this game, he maybe didn't live up to the expectations of him going back home to Minnesota. John Tortorella actually yesterday was very complimentary of Bobby Brink in his practice availability. Said that Brink has improved dramatically as a checker. He's not big. He's never going to get big. He's 5'8". That's what he is. He's not going to grow 4 inches at age 24. Stop holding your breath for that. But he can get better as a checker. He can be more physical along the boards. He can be better in battles. He can be just more aware of what's going on. And I think John Tortorella is, even in comparison to where he was with Brink in October, I think John Tortorella is impressed with the work that Brink is putting in on the other side of the puck, that he's getting to a point where at the very least he's not a dramatic liability as a defensive checker. Now, for me, like, it's funny, you mentioned that. For me, the bigger question with Brink is, can he score enough?
Yeah.
Like, can he score enough to the point where you want him in your lineup? You feel like you need him in your lineup.
And that's to me, he is, and I've said since they started using him on Power Play 1, I like him in that role
Me
because
too.
that's ultimately what I think he is. A third line guy that, yeah, you have to shelter, but he can be important for you in those half ice sets, you know? Is that the case? Like, does he belong on Power Play 1 right now?
No. No, I don't.
My
Not
issue-
results based, no.
Certainly not. He had that one really good pass to Michkov.
Yeah,
that
that was a great play.
But beyond that, he had some rough plays on the power play today.
My thing right now is Couturier has to be on power play 1 because he's the only guy who can win a faceoff on this team, especially in the offensive zone. And he's the only dude with any size to get his ass to the front of the net. And that should be Morgan Frost's spot. And because you don't have Frost's playmaking, because who would center the second power play if he was there? They don't have any other centers, certainly not ones who belong on a power play.
No.
You then need Bobby Brink's playmaking to replace what you would be getting out of Frost. And I think it just shows the deficiencies in the lineup.
Sure.
Yeah,
Like, this is just an example of, they need centers, probably 2 of them. Like, that's just kind of where they are right now.
We got one coming.
And
I just think with Brink, like, he's one of those guys where you want to play him now. You want to develop him. You want to see what he's going to become because you're not trying to win a cup right now. But he's one of those guys where, if this is all he is, if all he is a, not liability, but, defensively, but not a play driver, and he's going to score you, 40 points a year in a depth scoring role, he's one of those guys that you replace in your lineup to get better.
Yes, I think that is a great way to look at it.
But maybe he can become that guy. He can become the 60-point guy that you want in your lineup because he can provide that depth scoring in a in a middle of the lineup role.
That would be fun.
And right now, like, I know 40 points. It's like, really, Bobby Brink? He had 23 last year. He's got 13 in 27 games. He's at half a point a game.
Right
That's
there.
40 points. Like, I realize he hasn't been spectacular. I do wonder if it can ever be more. I have, honestly, the thing I've been impressed by him the most recently is 50-50 and even battle pucks. He's come out, or at least shown, he's been, his effort along the boards and stuff has been noticeable. Yeah. And that's obviously a thing that's going to endear him to the coach.
For sure.
But he needs to score.
I would like to see
that's
more.
what's going to keep him in a top 9 role in this league is, he's not a 40 guy, he's a 50-point guy. And I'm just not sure if he can ever find the consistency enough to be that.
And that's why you go through seasons like this, where you give these guys a chance to hopefully learn and develop and get better. And then maybe 2-3 years down the road, he is a 55, 60-point guy, and then we're excited. Right now, we're still trying to figure out what he is, and this is the perfect time to figure out what guys are.
And as a second-round pick, a college player, he's in that developmental stage.
Yeah.
He's a little older than your typical real young guy, but he's still a prospect, basically.
Agreed.
All right, before we go any further, I got to tell you about our presenting sponsor, Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My bets today, extraordinarily ordinary. 0 for 3 today. We had that Bobby Brink anytime goal, no such luck. We had the Michkov anytime goal, no such luck. We had over 5.5. Yikes. Thanks a lot for those missed empty nets, TK. So that we took it on the chin today, but listen, that's going to happen. That's why they call it gambling. I'm still using Bet365 as my sportsbook of choice, and I think you should too. So download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And perhaps, when one game happens, trade York, trade Brink, perhaps we all need to chill.
Perhaps.
This team can drive us a little bit nuts, and that's why we need to celebrate those times when we make that decision to chill. And there's no better way to celebrate than with an ice-cold Coors Light. So whether you're freaking out about some draft picks not working out, or when they're going to get the young stud defenseman back in, or what goalie's going to be the 2, what's going to be the 3, you need to find the Blue Mountains in your fridge and enjoy a beer as cold as the Rockies, because when everything surrounding your favorite hockey team is on fire, sometimes you just got to chill. Make the most of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door, or find a store near you by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Speaking of goaltenders, Ersson today, I thought he made some pretty big saves. Stopped 14 of 16 in the first 2 periods.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 2 goals, it's Kaprizov on the angle when it's I don't know what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. He's fine.
And then the Boldy breakaway where it's always I guess not every breakaway has to go in, but also
I wonder if he should have
don't give it up
on that
To try to get the puck, probably in retrospect. But again, this is hindsight.
I know, that's the thing.
It's well, the puck went in, so yeah, you should have done the other thing.
Right, yeah, exactly. Why didn't you think of that?
How do you think Ersson's been since returning?
meh.
Yeah, all right. Not lighting the world on fire.
He's been meh,
Yeah.
I would say. I think we talked about this after the forget which game it was, but it was the game where it was a home game, and I guess it would have been the Utah game. It was his first game back, and he said, I don't feel like I regret any of those specifically, any of the goals he gave up against Utah, but I need to get one or two more saves somewhere. That it's not like any of them were bad goals, but it's not like they were unstoppable either. I need to find a way to make a save. That was kind of how I felt tonight, probably on the Boldy goal, because again, the first goal, that's Kaprizov going crazy. The third goal is a 2-on-1. Rossi's open. Maybe he can make a lunging desperation save, but it's gonna be real tough. The Boldy goal is probably the one where you're like, you're never gonna blame a goalie on a breakaway, but there's a reason why all shootout attempts don't go in.
Yeah.
Breakaways get stopped all the time. He's unable to come up with a save on that play. That's a bummer.
Like the best shootout shooters ever are like 40.
Yeah.
45%. That we're talking TJ Oshie.
Yeah.
30 is real good. That means you stop 70% of them.
Yeah, the expected value of a breakaway is probably, in terms of like expected goals, probably has about a 0.22% expected goal value. That's very high. But that implies that, probably about 20% of breakaways go in, which means that there's an 80% chance the goalie's going to stop it. And in this time, it was a 100% chance that Ersson didn't stop it.
So this is Ersson's third game back since the injury. He gave up 4 on 25 shots to Utah. He gave up 3 on 18 shots to Columbus. And garbage time, I blame the defense for that one, honestly.
Yeah, I do too.
And 3 on 22 shots. 22 shots against today.
But again, you need it. You get another save. Get another save or two, and then suddenly the numbers look good.
Yeah, it's 3 straight games. 840, 833, and today was the high water mark at 864.
Can't absolve him entirely. I don't think he's been terrible.
No.
But he's been meh.
Yeah, he's been meh at best, and that's... So with a few days now and that game on Wednesday, you expect Ersson back in probably.
Yes.
He is the starter. There's an established hierarchy, and I think there's opportunity maybe for Kolosov to move up the way Ersson did last year. This is a situation you go back to your starter.
I would think so.
Yeah, I believe so.
Plus, we've seen him start slow, and this is kind of like a restart for him.
A little bit.
So maybe he's
That's
just got to
fair.
get some reps
It's a fair point.
It was quite a bit of time in between
Yeah.
games for him, and really he had those 2 games in the middle, but he initially got injured on November 2nd.
Yeah.
This is his 3rd game back from the second injury, so it's kind of been a stop and start sort of thing for him. That could be tough
I
as
would
well.
say, though, he is, at the very least, opening the door a bit for Kolosov.
Yes.
Because Kolosov's going to get one of the next 2 games because it's a back-to-back. It's Detroit on the road, and then it's LA at home. So he's going to get one of the next 2. If Ersson delivers another one of these types of games where he gives up, 3 goals on 25 shots and they lose, and then Kolosov goes out there and wins a 3-1 game where he stops 29 out of 30, suddenly the door is open for it not being a clear 1-2, that it becomes, okay, instead of it being 70-30, maybe it's 60-40. And then if it keeps going like that, Ersson's opening the door just a bit. Now we see if Kolosov can walk through it and force it open a little bit more, I guess is the better way to put it.
Gotta kick
I have
it
a
in.
couple of
Gotta kick it
non-game related topics I want to get to at the end. So what I
We're
want to
getting
do...
close to the end because I think we have
are.
some super chats.
41 is the 3 super chats. So what I'm going to do right now is Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game.
Ooh.
This is a tough one because no Flyers are going to make this list, I can imagine. So Charlie O'Connor, it's time
Matvei
for the
Michkov
3
stick.
stars of the game. You can make, if you want, star number 1 the schedule maker for yet another afternoon game. Charlie O'Connor, hit us with star number 3.
Star number 3, I will go with Marco Rossi.
Okay. Future Flyer.
Thought about Noah Cates because I did think Noah Cates was one of the only Flyers who played well in objectively.
He did stuff.
No qualifications well, but he didn't score. He didn't get on the scoreboard. Marco Rossi gets the big goal that kind of drives the stake through the heart of the Flyers' chances in this one. Yeah, it's funny that he gets the big goal given the fact that he comes up all the time on the show because people are desperate for the Flyers to make a trade.
Trevor Zegras is hurt.
They're desperate for the Flyers to get a center. He's the center whose name is at least a little bit out there. He had a good game. You watch him play and you think to yourself, they're not going to trade this guy, right? He's real good.
If they did, we talked about this. I can't remember if it was on or off the air, but yeah, maybe the Flyers will be undersized up front. Let's get the good players first and then worry about style later.
Yeah.
Like, we are not in a position, well, he doesn't quite fit what. No, get good players and then see what you have to do after that.
Yeah.
If you then need to trade one of he or Luchanko, it's like, oh, well, they're good. Maybe they just don't fit. That means you'll get a good return. Just get good players. Charlie, star number 2.
Star number 2, went back and forth on this, but I'm going to go star number 2, Kirill Kaprizov. Obviously gets 2 goals. You know, one of them's an empty netter. It's kind of it helps your stats, but whatever. Game's pretty much over at that point. Obviously, the first goal, though, highlight reel, incredible shot. What a play by Kaprizov. He's a great player. He's not my number 1 star for reasons I'll explain in a second, but great game, great player. He's a superstar. He's what you're hoping Michkov, because Matvei Michkov is already a real good NHL player. But the hope is that, like right now, he is a little bit below point per game. The hope is that that is not even close to what his ultimate ceiling would be. Kirill Kaprizov, MVP favorite right now, well over point per game pace, doing it on a team that doesn't have a clear-cut 1C.
Yeah.
You're hoping that that is Michkov's ceiling. And, you know, that would be real cool if it is. Kirill Kaprizov, second star of the game.
It would be. Like, just right now, Mish is what Giroux was, like, as a whole. His whole Flyers tenure, he's about, I think, like 0.9 points a game. Yeah. Like, that's what...
And to be fair, Giroux played in a much lower scoring inning.
Oh, yes.
I'm not saying... Let's not say that Michkov right now is as good as Claude Giroux was in the entirety of his career.
No. Just the average scoring pace.
Fair.
But I'm going to, like, that includes the injury years.
Right. Yeah.
It includes the beginning where he's a third liner. Yeah. Like, just the entire scoring pace. That's about where Mish is now. You need him to be prime or better for him to be considered. And, like, that's what Kaprizov is. Exactly. He's 20 goals in, like, 30 games. He's killing it. Yeah. All right. Without further ado, star number 1.
Star number 1 is Marc-Andre Fleury. And the reason for him being 1 over Kaprizov is there is a world where the Flyers take this game to overtime. Maybe the Flyers even win it in regulation. And that world is that there's a goalie playing average hockey in net. Marc-Andre Fleury was fantastic in this game. He makes that unbelievable really save on Travis Konechny. Like, yeah, you could say Konechny could have put it in a different spot. There's no reason for Travis Konechny to think that he has to worry about picking a corner with that much of an open net and Fleury that far out of position.
And honestly, the defender, while he was maybe a little bit behind, he did a good job of taking Konechny's angle that he couldn't really do anything else with it. Yeah. But that save was freaking tremendous.
It was unreal.
Like, he also right there, honestly, that highlight makes him first star because, like, what else happened in this game?
Exactly. And then another low-key great save. He makes a really good save on Noah Cates.
Yes.
Right after Sanheim scores the 1 goal the Flyers get. If Cates scores that wraparound goal where Fleury lunges, shows off the fact that he's still an athletic goalie at age friggin' 40. If Fleury doesn't get over there, suddenly it's 3-2. This is a chaotic Flyers team. Maybe they do take it to overtime. Instead, Fleury makes the big stop. He made a couple other really good saves throughout the rest of the game. I think the Flyers got outplayed. I think they were the inferior team tonight. But goaltending is the great equalizer, and Fleury made sure that there was no way the Flyers were going to, random variance their way into a win they probably didn't deserve. He was stellar, first star of the game.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Flyers play one of their worst games of the season against Ottawa. But since Ullmark was the worst player on the ice, they won. Yeah. So that can happen sometimes. Yeah. A game that could have been 50-50 was all Minnesota. Because the few chances the Flyers had, Fleury said no.
Yeah, he was there.
And that brings me to one of the off-topic things I wanted to do. It's Charlie's favorite conversation.
What's this?
Marc-Andre Fleury, Hall of Fame.
Oh, Hall of Fame combo.
I just love it. It cracked me up when JJ did a great job on his own saying shutout today, therefore ruining it for Marc-Andre Fleury, obviously.
Kelly was trying to jinx it on the socials, too.
I did. Yeah. And it worked, Charles.
It did. That? Fleury's made like 60-some starts against the Flyers. Today was his 33rd win. I'm like, all right, he's like a 500 goalie against us. And like the Flyers have, for some of his career, were competitors.
Yeah, but not
for a lot of it, they weren't. No. And this would have been his 4th shutout ever against the Flyers. This is a guy who's going to the Hall of Fame. He only has 3 against us. Cam Talbot has 4. I just find that insane. I know shutouts can be kind of random sometimes.
Yeah.
But I just find, I believe Fleury belongs in the Hall of Fame because it's called the Hall of Fame. It's not the Hall of Best Statistics. Are you a celebrity in the game? Can you tell the story? He's part of the story, I think.
Yeah.
That puts him in more than his play for me. I know Charlie has a different view of it, and honestly, that's part of the reason I think he belongs in.
Because it'll tick me off.
Yes, of
that's
course.
why.
Yeah.
I do think it needs to be a bit of a combination of, do you contribute to the story of the NHL as a whole, but also we're really, really good. And I think Marc-Andre Fleury has just been like, good.
He was on good teams.
He was on, he happened to be on a team with Sidney Crosby and Malkin in their primes. So, got a little lucky there. Also, like, his career numbers, Charlie was looking at them, I think, during the game. They're just, like, average. Like, he's fine.
He's fine.
But he's not.
Career 9-12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
good.
he's
It's good.
good. He's a good goaltender. There's no doubt about that. Is he Patrick Waugh level? No, he's not. And so, like, that's kind of where it gets like, So, like, are you putting him in because everyone likes him and he's old and still playing well? Like, is that what we're doing? Because that kind of seems like what we're doing.
The longevity factor, I'm sure, helps him, to be sure. And the fact that, not only was he a key member of the Penguins semi-dynasty, I don't know if we want to call that a dynasty, but they were good for a really long time, so I guess you could. And then the capstone is what he did for that Vegas team.
And then he's in Vegas.
Yeah.
He wins his Vezina in Vegas at 36. Honestly, I wanted to put him in the Hall of Fame when I heard that he talks trash on every save. He'll like make a glove save and just go, "Oh, nope, not today, boys."
Very funny.
And that's really freaking funny.
But he does the talking to the post, too, right? That's a big thing of his.
All right, Brendan, let's hit those super chats.
Super chats.
All right, 3 super chats. Let's see. JH is up first. Sorry, fam. I won't go to any more away games.
It's all your fault,
Thanks
JH.
a lot, JH.
Feel free.
Well, actually, if you're here's something. If there's something to this, JH. If you are watching the show and you are a diehard tanker and you happen to be independently wealthy, maybe send JH to every single Flyers game.
I like that Charlie has become Jinx guy now. Like, that's outstanding. I hope you enjoyed yourself
I'm
regardless.
just trying to get our dedicated listener JH on scholarship for the rest of the season.
There you go.
If I can take advantage of people's irrational beliefs in jinxes, I'll do it.
Charlie. It just
As soon
there's
as we
just
get-
no whimsy about Charlie.
I know.
He just has no whimsy.
We just got to get that Joe Rogan podcast money, and then we can send JH. to all the
we
games.
do.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think we're like pretty
Any
close,
day
right?
now.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
close.
for sure.
Yeah. Get the roof fixed maybe so it's not leaking in the middle of shows. We don't own the building. It's not our fault. Gary B up next says, my bet 365 goal predictions were 1 of 2. I took Rossi and Cates to score. Let's
Not
go
bad,
Flyers.
Gary.
Cates, one of the Minnesota guys, and honestly played pretty well today.
He did.
He almost
Did
scored.
some stuff.
If Fleury wasn't on his game, Gary probably would have been 2 for 2. So blame Marc-Andre Fleury, Gary. It's not your fault, Gary.
they were
You're
solid
still
bets.
great. It's all Fleury's
It's
fault.
never your fault.
Yeah.
It's always them.
It's always
All
them.
right. And the last one here from Vineet Singh says, am I just crazy that I don't want to give York a long contract with a $7 million AAV? Am I crazy that I think Andre will be better?
Vineet, I was saying that on our regular show. I'm not 100% sold on Cam York, and I can't put my finger on it. But I'm not.
I think my thing is that I want to give him a long-term deal. And I think to get him on a long-term deal, you're going to have to pay.
Right.
If you could get him on a long-term deal in the 5s or 6s, hell yeah, do it. I just don't think he's going to sign that.
No, it would be stupid to do that.
He's not going to want it. Because then it's like, well, then why don't I just go real short and become a free agent?
Right.
You know? But like, yeah, I'm not down with 7 or 8 years. I'm just not there yet for what it's going to cost. And there'll be trade protection. Like, I need more. I think he's good. I think he's a top 4 defenseman. I just don't know what else.
I just don't know about it yet. And although, like, to be fair, we were saying this about the Sanheim contract. And look at us now.
The Sanheim contract was a little different because I've always been a Travis Sanheim defender. My issue with the Sanheim contract was that I didn't think it was a contract that the Flyers, as they stood then, should be signing him to, given his age.
Right.
That was my issue with it.
Okay.
If you sign Cam York to a long-term deal, you're
still
signing
a
him
child.
in his
Right.
prime.
Yeah.
And you're locking him up for the rest of his prime. And the point I made on the main show, and I will make it again, because it's something I will continue to hammer the table on until people actually accept it, is these cap hits that to you seem large are not going to seem that large once the cap ceiling starts skyrocketing, which it is about to do. Like, what you think of as that is way too much, it's so much. In 2-3 years, it's not going to seem like that much at all because the cap is going to be over $100 million.
That's another thing I'll believe when I see, because these cheap owners are going to try to find a way to weasel their way out of increasing the cap that much.
And there is still like, all right, 7, 8, it's not huge, but you committed to that guy long term. Now we still need someone better than him.
Yeah.
We need someone better than Sanheim. We need someone better than him. So now we have how much wrapped up in our top 3D. And like, not a bad problem if they're all really good. I just don't know how good Cam York is. And I'd maybe rather spend a little more later than to have the uncertainty now.
Yeah, I would rather take the risk now to have big savings later, because I think that if
I respect the risk.
if you're going to be a contender, you need surplus value in spots.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I had no issue with the Owen Tippett contract, because it's an attempt to get surplus value 4 or 5 years down the road by paying a little bit more now. That's what I'd like for them to do with Cam York. But I get that people aren't as sold on Cam York as I am.
All right, before
Injury prone, Charlie.
Injury prone. Before we get out of here, I have a couple of things I think you need to know about, because we have a crazy schedule coming up over the next couple of weeks. I already mentioned this coming Wednesday. It is Kelly Hinkle's birthday, and our watch along pre, during the game, post, all right here on the YouTube page. Flyers, Red Wings should be a good one. And then we have a Festivus party coming up, Hinkle. Tell us about Festivus.
Festivus, December 23rd, Monday, for the game against the Penguins. We will be at Xfinity Live at what they're calling the pub now. It used to be Bullies. We'll be there. PHLY fam's going to be there. The Ed Snyder Youth Hockey Foundation has given us a pair of suite tickets with parking to any game of your choosing that we're going to be with parking.
You don't even have to have a Chevy.
Yeah, any game too. So we'll be raffling that off to benefit Snyder. We're going to have giveaways. You guys can get food, get wasted with your homies, watch the hockey game. It's going to be a very good time. So
I've already told our boss I'm planning on drinking at least 8 beers, so I can't drive to postgame, so you have to be able to do it there.
You don't want to miss Bill Matt's
come hang out with me as
live drunk podcast.
Act incredibly unprofessional.
I love it.
It'll be outstanding.
And then, of course, we have our watch party coming up on the 28th. It is at Heroes in Glen Mills. That's going to be a great time. We always have these great events. It's free admission. We're not even selling tickets to this one. You just go to allphly.com, RSVP, because this is a nice thing to do, to let people know if you're going to be there or not. We have about a minute left. Just want to get your reaction to the World Juniors. Denver Barkey doesn't make it. The other 3 do. I just feel bad for Denver Barkey.
I feel bad for him, yeah.
I feel bad, and it's just kind of a circumstance out of his control. He obviously missed camp, recovering from mono. Misses the first, I think, 4 games for the London Knights. Only a few points in his first 6. Has been dominant since, but
slow start.
It's Canada.
Right.
It's not like they don't have other dudes to choose. I just feel bad for him.
I feel bad for him, especially because we interviewed him specifically.
It was a big goal
at development camp. He made it clear how much it bummed him out that he missed that team. I interviewed him, actually, now I'm thinking about it, I interviewed him on the phone, and I believe it was late January, so it was after, and he basically brought it up kind of unprompted that it was a real disappointment, and he's going to have that in the back of his head all summer, that he wants to make this team. You could tell it meant something to him to make that team. Also, there's probably, and you never know, maybe Denver Barkey is going to be a superstar. But there's probably a part of him that knows that even if he makes it as an NHLer, he's probably not going to play for Team Canada ever again.
This is it.
Yeah.
This was his last chance to represent his country, unless maybe 1 year down the road he gets to do like a Lawton and get to play for Worlds, for Canada for Worlds, because everybody else isn't available. Like, this was his time. Because if he makes it as an NHLer, it's probably going to be as, a bottom 6 energy type guy who just works his tail off every shift. And I think he's got a good chance, despite how small he is. But he's probably never going to be on the tip of Team Canada's, mind to be like, yeah, we need to get this guy. This was his chance, and I feel bad for him they didn't get it.
And that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers postgame, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We are off Sunday and Monday. We'll be back Tuesday with our live show, Wednesday with the watch along. So make sure you're subscribed right here on YouTube for that. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers and follow the podcast wherever you get those as well. I'm Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. That's Kelly Hinkle. Let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.